Imagine your father padlocking the refrigerator so you starve. This abused high school dropout went from plunging human waste to commanding a $250 million empire. But the terrifying, near-fatal price he paid for ultimate power will shatter everything you know about wealth. The ending will haunt you. Imagine the gnawing, hollow ache in your stomach as a child, standing in the dead of night, staring at a refrigerator locked shut with a heavy metal padlock by your own father. This is not a dramatic scene manufactured for a movie. This is the dark, agonizing genesis of a $250 million empire. Look around your social media feed right now. What do you see? A sickening parade of 20-something financial gurus standing in front of rented Lamborghinis, flashing leased Rolexes, and preaching the gospel of effortless passive income. They are selling you a sterilized, glamorous hallucination of wealth that simply does not exist. It is a fabricated reality meticulously designed to extract your hard-earned money. I know you are exhausted by this. I know the plastic smiles and the empty rhetoric make you sick to your stomach. You clicked on this because you are starving for the brutal, unvarnished truth. You are searching for a blueprint forged not in a neon-lit studio, but in the gritty, unforgiving trenches of real-world survival. You want a story of wealth creation that is raw, dripping with sweat, and born from absolute desperation. Before we descend into the brilliant, scarred mind of a man who turned his darkest childhood trauma into untouchable power, I ask that you hit the subscribe button. By subscribing, you give this channel the vital motivation to keep cutting through the internet's lies and bringing you these profound, life-altering deep dives into the realities of true wealth. Money Glow Up 02 warmly welcomes you to a journey that will permanently shatter the way you look at money, struggle, and success. That locked refrigerator belongs to the childhood of Ben Mallah. He is the furthest thing from a polished Wall Street executive. He is a high school dropout who clawed his way out of the dilapidated, dangerous projects of Queens, New York. He is a survivor of severe domestic abuse, a boy who grew up with nothing but the threadbare clothes on his back and a burning, almost violent desire to escape the suffocating grip of poverty. Today, that very same dropout is a real estate titan. He commands an empire valued at a staggering $250 million, and he reigns from a $16.5 million waterfront mega mansion, the single most expensive residential property in Tampa, Florida. How does a kid from the darkest slums build a $250 million fortress? That haunting question is what drove me to pack my bags, coordinate with Danny Jones from the Concrete Podcast, and board a cross-country flight from the concrete sprawl of Los Angeles to the humid, lucrative shores of Florida. My singular obsession was to dissect his brain, to tear apart his rags-to-riches formula and hand you the pieces so you can finally stop making foolish financial decisions and start building your own impregnable freedom fund. When I finally stood face-to-face with Ben, there were no corporate pleasantries. There was only a brutally honest, expletive-laden welcome that hit me like a freight train. He operates entirely without a filter. But beneath that brash, abrasive exterior lies an agonizing psychological truth that you must understand if you ever hope to escape the rat race. Ben's maniacal drive to accumulate wealth does not stem from a shallow desire to show off. It is born from trauma. When you grow up treating a discarded crust of bread like a luxury, your brain rewires itself for war. The ultra-wealthy do not make money to hoard it in a dead savings account. They build wealth to erect a massive, impenetrable wall between their families and the cruel uncertainties of this world. Ben's intense early frugality was never about being cheap. It was about survival. Most people actively choose financial slavery, spending money they do not have on things they do not need to impress people they despise. Ben chose financial war. He realized early on that every single dollar saved was a soldier in his army, and that true wealth is about absolute, unadulterated control over your own destiny. If you are sitting there complaining about your boss, your circumstances, or the economy, you are bleeding precious energy. You must channel your anger, use your deepest dissatisfactions, and transform your financial anxiety into a calculated, aggressive strategy. Without this ruthless pragmatism, everything else we are about to discuss is just noise. Understanding this psychological bedrock is the only way to comprehend the sheer lunacy of his early 20s, a period where he weaponized his poverty to build his initial arsenal of capital. Ben did not manifest his seed money through vision boards or a magical morning routine. He bled for it. When he joined the military at 17, escaping the abuse and the padlocked refrigerator of his youth, he found himself in an environment that finally made sense to him. The army offered structure, a bed, and guaranteed meals. But more importantly, it offered him a chance to hoard every single penny he touched. While his peers were blowing their meager paychecks on weekend liberties, cheap booze, and chasing fleeting thrills, Ben was operating on a different frequency entirely. He was already playing the long game. He took on every filthy, degrading job nobody else wanted. I am talking about scrubbing toilets, picking up garbage, and literally plunging human waste. Let that sink in for a moment. The man who now lives in a $16.5 million Tampa palace started his real estate journey by becoming a glorified human garbage disposal. When his military service ended, he did not seek out a comfortable desk job. He leaned into the grit. He managed a seedy, crime-ridden apartment complex in Oakland, California, doing the plumbing, the painting, and the evictions himself, all in exchange for free rent. He lived in absolute squalor, driving a beaten-up car, eating the cheapest food imaginable, and fiercely guarding his bank account like a junkyard dog. This is the part of the story that the internet gurus desperately want to skip. They want to sell you the penthouse view without showing you the sewage backup in the basement. Ben realized that to amass wealth, you must first create a massive, undeniable gap between what you earn and what you spend. He was not trying to look rich, he was frantically trying to buy his freedom. Every toilet he fixed, every pile of trash he hauled, deposited a few more dollars into his escape fund. I sat there listening to him describe those years, and I was struck by the utter lack of ego in his voice. There was no shame in his early poverty, only a cold, calculating pride. He understood a fundamental truth that most of us are too proud to accept. The market does not care about your feelings, your background, or your dignity. The market only respects capital and the leverage it provides. Ben was willing to sacrifice a decade of his youth, living like a pauper, deliberately delaying any form of gratification simply to stockpile cash. He was building his war chest. He was accumulating the financial ammunition he would need to finally strike back at the world that had marginalized him. If you are not willing to drastically lower your standard of living, if you are too arrogant to get your hands dirty, you will never accumulate the critical mass of capital required to escape the gravitational pull of the middle class. Ben Mallah proved that wealth is not born from comfort. It is forged in the fires of extreme, relentless sacrifice. But raw capital is useless if it sits stagnant, which brings us to the exact moment Ben took those violently earned dollars and stepped into the absolute gutter of the real estate market. With his war chest finally assembled, Ben did not look for pristine, turnkey properties with manicured lawns in safe neighborhoods. He looked straight into the abyss. He targeted the most decrepit, dangerous, boarded-up crack houses and dilapidated apartment buildings in the worst zip codes imaginable. These were properties that conventional investors and bank executives would not even drive past with their windows rolled up. But where the rest of the world saw urban decay, crime, and liability, Ben Mallah's trauma-hardened brain saw a gold mine of undervalued equity. He bought his first property, a completely trashed house, for practically nothing. He did not hire a crew of expensive contractors. He physically moved into the mess. He slept on the floor amidst the roaches and the rot, waking up at the crack of dawn to tear out drywall, fix shattered plumbing, and haul away the debris left behind by squatters. It was a terrifying, exhausting existence. He was dodging drug dealers and navigating neighborhood violence daily, acting as his own security guard, property manager, and general contractor. This is the brutal, unglamorous reality of sweat equity. You do not just buy real estate, you breathe life back into dying concrete with your own bare hands. Listening to him recount the sheer physical danger of those early deals, I felt a deep sense of respect wash over me. Ben was not playing a spreadsheet game. He was fighting hand-to-hand combat in the trenches of the housing market. Once he stabilized a property, making it barely habitable but safe, he executed a stroke of working-class genius. He rented exclusively to Section 8 tenants. While upscale landlords scoffed at government-subsidized housing, terrified of the stigma, Ben saw absolute financial security. He realized that the government's check never bounces. By catering to the lowest income bracket, he ensured a guaranteed, recession-proof stream of monthly cash flow. He was providing a roof for people who, much like his younger self, had absolutely nothing. And in return, the state funded his growing empire. He would take the cash flow from one fixed-up slum, refinance the property based on its newly forced appreciation, pull all of his original tax-free capital back out, and immediately throw it into the next distressed building down the block. It was a relentless, aggressive cycle of buying the worst, forcing the value up, and extracting the equity. He rinsed and repeated this painful, exhausting process dozens of times, transforming entire blighted city blocks into his personal, cash-flowing machines. He proved that you do not need a Harvard MBA to understand real estate. You need an iron stomach, a high tolerance for chaos, and the sheer force of will to see value in the garbage that society has thrown away. Once you learn how to turn urban decay into guaranteed government checks, the game shifts from mere survival to the explosive, high-stakes mathematics of scaling an empire. Ben Mallah did not want to be a slumlord for the rest of his life. He wanted to own the skyline. This is where his street smarts collided with the U.S. tax code, specifically a magical provision known as the 1031 exchange. For the uninitiated, a 1031 exchange allows an investor to sell a property and defer paying all capital gains taxes, provided they immediately roll every single penny of that profit into a larger, more expensive property. To Ben, this was not just a tax loophole, it was a ladder to the stratosphere. He realized that paying taxes on real estate flips is a death sentence to compounding wealth. So, he simply stopped cashing out. He took his portfolio of stabilized Section 8 apartments, sold them, and legally shielded millions of dollars from the IRS by upgrading into massive retail shopping centers. Then he stabilized those plazas, sold them, and rolled the profits into luxury beachfront hotels. Watching him explain this strategy was like watching a grandmaster play three-dimensional chess. He was trading up the Monopoly board in real life, moving from dilapidated greenhouses to massive red hotels, entirely tax-free. But scaling to $250 million requires more than just tax avoidance. It requires a predatory mastery of negotiation. Ben thrives in the chaos of a deal. When he evaluates a $50 million commercial plaza, he does not care about the glossy brochures. He looks for distress. He hunts for tired, over-leveraged owners who are bleeding money, poorly managed hotels with abysmal occupancy rates, or shopping centers with massive, empty anchor spaces. He swoops in when the current owner is desperate, offering a lowball cash price that is borderline offensive. He is completely detached from the emotion of the transaction. If the numbers do not hit his exact required yield, he walks away without a second thought. He operates with a terrifying level of conviction because he knows the math never lies. He buys the distressed hotel, fires the incompetent management, slaps a fresh coat of paint on the walls, brings in aggressive leasing agents to fill the empty stores, and suddenly, a property he bought for $20 million is valued at $40 million, based entirely on the new income it generates. He has mastered the art of forced appreciation on a gigantic corporate scale. He took the exact same gritty, roll-up-your-sleeves mentality he used on a $20,000 crack house and applied it to $50 million resorts. The zeros on the contracts changed, but the ferocious, value-add philosophy remained exactly the same. Yet, as I sat across from him in his breathtaking waterfront mansion, taking in the panoramic views of the bay, I realized that this relentless pursuit of maximum leverage had extracted an invisible, nearly fatal toll. You cannot carry the stress of a $250 million debt portfolio without your body keeping the score. The same maniacal obsession that built Ben's empire almost put him in an early grave. He spoke openly and with a surprising vulnerability about his severe health battles, his massive weight fluctuations, and the terrifying open-heart surgery that forced him to confront his own mortality. It was a jarring juxtaposition. Here is a man who holds ultimate financial power, a man who can buy virtually anything on the planet with a single phone call. Yet he was entirely powerless when his heart began to fail. This is the ultimate, sobering price of wealth that the internet gurus will never tell you about. They show you the cars and the boats, but they do not show you the insomnia, the crushing anxiety of a collapsing commercial deal, or the hospital monitors beeping in the dead of night. Ben looked me dead in the eyes and admitted that the money, the cars, the mansions, they ultimately mean nothing if you are not alive to breathe the air inside them. His trauma-induced drive to protect his family had ironically pushed him to the brink of leaving them behind prematurely. It was a profound realization that shifted his entire perspective. Today, he is desperately trying to deleverage, to sell off the massive, headache-inducing commercial properties and park his cash in simpler, stress-free investments. He is trading his maximum returns for time, health, and peace of mind. As I packed up my camera gear and walked out of the massive iron gates of his estate, the humid Florida air felt different. I had come looking for a tactical blueprint on how to make millions, but I left with something far more valuable. Ben Mallah's life is a masterclass in extremes. He teaches us that you absolutely can rise from the deepest, darkest poverty to unimaginable wealth, if you are willing to embrace suffering, live far below your means, and ruthlessly exploit the rules of the game. You must fight for your financial freedom because nobody is coming to save you. But his story is equally a cautionary tale. It is a stark reminder that money is a phenomenal servant, but a tyrannical, destructive master. You must know when the war is over. You must know when you have finally built a wall high enough to protect your family. And then you must have the courage to lay down your weapons and actually live the life you fought so hard to secure. Stop chasing the hollow flecks of a rented lifestyle. Build your fortress in the shadows. Sweat for your equity. Leverage the system. But never, ever trade your soul or your heartbeat for another zero in the bank account. Funket. Conclusion. Ben Mallah's journey from the absolute bottom to a $250 million empire is a raw, unfiltered testament to the power of relentless sacrifice and strategic leverage. He did not build his wealth through luck or overnight schemes. He built it by weaponizing his poverty. By living in squalor, taking on the degrading jobs no one else would touch, and fiercely guarding his capital, he forged the financial ammunition needed to escape his circumstances. He mastered the brutal art of sweat equity, transforming boarded-up crack houses into guaranteed cash flow through Section 8 housing. He then utilized 1031 exchanges to trade up the monopoly board to luxury beachfront hotels, entirely tax-free. However, the most vital chapter of his story is not about acquiring wealth, but surviving it. The maniacal drive that built his fortress nearly cost him his life, resulting in severe health crises and open-heart surgery. His story stands as both a monumental blueprint for financial independence and a sobering cautionary tale. It proves that while you must ruthlessly fight for your freedom, get your hands dirty, and exploit the rules of the market to build your wealth, you must also recognize when the war is over. True wealth is utterly meaningless if you destroy your physical health and lose the time to enjoy the peace you fought so desperately to secure. The ultimate lesson from Ben Mallah's life is that financial freedom requires a season of extreme, unglamorous sacrifice. But money makes a phenomenal servant and a tyrannical master. To apply this to your life today, you must first stop chasing the illusion of looking rich. Create a massive gap between your income and your expenses by willingly lowering your standard of living. Take the jobs others avoid, stockpile your capital, and look for value where society sees garbage. Whether it is a distressed property, an ignored side hustle, or a messy business, put in the sweat equity to force its value up. Most importantly, apply this lesson by defining your enough. Set a clear financial finish line. Know exactly what level of wealth will secure your family's freedom. And once you build that wall high enough, have the courage to lay down your weapons. Deleverage your stress and prioritize your well-being. Never trade your physical health, your mental peace, or your heartbeat for another zero in your bank account. What is one daily comfort or luxury you would be willing to sacrifice today to build your financial fortress for tomorrow? Please drop your thoughts in the comment section below so we can all learn from each other's perspectives. If you found value in this deep dive into the harsh, unfiltered realities of wealth building, please hit that subscribe button. Your support directly fuels this channel and gives me the motivation to keep bringing you more profound, hard-hitting content.